The morning sky was pale, and the air carried the soft chill of dew as the boy stepped out of his small wooden house. His father was still asleep, and his mother was busy inside, but he wanted to see the fields before the sun rose high. He rubbed his eyes, still half dreaming, when something unusual caught his attention. Near the edge of the farmland, standing in the mist, was an animal he had never seen before. It was not like a dog, not like a deer, and not like anything he could name. Its fur glowed faintly, as if tiny sparks of light were hidden under its skin. Its eyes were bright and deep, almost human, but stranger, like they knew something he didn't. The boy froze. His first thought was to run back inside and call his father, but something held him still. The animal did not move to attack, did not growl or show fear. Instead, it stared at him in silence, head tilted slightly, as if waiting for him to take a step. The boy's heart thumped loudly in his chest. He had seen many wild animals around the farm, but this one was different. It seemed aware, intelligent, almost like it was testing him. He swallowed hard and took one step forward. The animal's glowing fur shimmered softly, and it turned slowly, walking toward the dark line of trees at the far edge of the land. Then it stopped, looked back at him, and waited. He hesitated. His father always warned him never to wander into the woods alone. There were stories of strange things in there, whispers, shadows, and creatures that did not belong to this world. But the boy felt a strange pull, a curiosity that burned stronger than fear. Why was this animal here? Why was it waiting for him? He glanced at the house one last time. Then, taking a deep breath, he followed. The grass was wet under his boots, and each step made his heart beat faster. The animal moved slowly, never too fast, always just ahead of him, making sure he could keep up. It was as if it wanted him to follow, as if this path was meant for him alone. The boy's hands trembled with both fear and excitement. He told himself he would only go a little further, just to see where it was leading. The sun climbed higher, and thin beams of light pierced through the trees as he entered the forest. The air inside was cooler, heavier, and strangely quiet. No birds sang, no insects buzzed. The silence was so deep it felt alive, pressing against his ears. The animal walked gracefully, its glowing fur casting soft light that made the shadows shift. The boy followed carefully, trying not to make noise, though every broken twig under his feet sounded loud in the stillness. After a while, the animal stopped. It turned and locked eyes with him again. The boy froze, unsure what it wanted. Then, without sound, he heard something in his mind. It was not words, not exactly, but a feeling, a whisper of thought. Come closer. He shivered, unsure if he had imagined it, but the sense was too clear to ignore. He took another step, and the animal blinked slowly, as if approving. The path grew narrower, winding between tall roots and fallen branches. Strange marks appeared on the trees, deep cuts shaped like symbols. The boy touched one, and his fingers felt a faint vibration, like the tree was humming. He pulled his hand back quickly, eyes wide. These were not natural. Someone or something had carved them long ago. He wanted to turn back, but when he looked up, the animal was waiting ahead, calm and steady, its glowing fur lighting the way. The boy clenched his fists and pressed on. Deeper into the forest, he began to notice odd things. A cold wind brushed his face, though the air around was still. Shadows shifted, though nothing moved. Once, he thought he heard faint whispers, but when he stopped to listen, there was only silence. His heart raced and fear tightened in his stomach, but the animal's presence gave him strange comfort. It was like a guide, protecting him, showing him a secret no one else was meant to see. At one point, the boy stumbled over a stone hidden in the leaves. When he looked down, he gasped. It was not just a stone. It was carved, flat, with the same symbols he had seen on the trees. He brushed away the dirt, and the lines glowed faintly, like they had been waiting for his touch. His breath caught in his throat. He looked up at the animal, who stood quietly, watching him. The boy felt his fear mix with wonder. Something very old was hidden here. Something connected to the strange creature before him. The animal moved again, its body glowing brighter now, as though it was reaching the place it wanted to show him. The boy followed quickly, his steps faster, his mind full of questions. He no longer thought of his father's warnings or the dangers of the forest. All he could think of was the mystery pulling him forward. The world outside, the farm, the house, the safety of home felt far away now. Suddenly, The animal stopped at the edge of a clearing. The boy stepped beside it and froze. Ahead of him, beyond the trees, stood something he could never have imagined. Strange shapes rose from the ground, half buried in vines and moss, like buildings, but not made by humans. Tall stones bent into arches, and broken walls shone faintly with the same glowing symbols. It was as if the forest had been hiding an entire world inside it. The boy's mouth fell open. His breath came fast. He felt both afraid and alive in a way he had never known before. He turned to the animal, his voice shaking. "What are you?" he whispered, though he did not expect an answer. The animal only blinked slowly, its glowing eyes reflecting the ruins ahead, and then, with a low hum in its chest, it stepped forward into the clearing. The boy followed. He knew he had crossed a line that morning, a line he could never return from. Whatever this animal was, whatever secret it had revealed, his life would never be the same again. The boy stood at the edge of the clearing, staring at the glowing ruins with wide eyes. His chest rose and fell quickly, and his mind spun with questions. He wanted to touch the strange walls again, to see if the glowing symbols would answer him. But the animal lifted its head and walked forward. It moved calmly, as if it already knew the way, as if it had walked this path many times before. The boy followed, his heart racing faster with every step. He could not explain why, but he felt the animal wanted him to see something more. The forest around the clearing grew denser as they left it behind. The air became cooler, heavier, as though it carried a secret no one else was allowed to hear. The path that stretched before them was not like any ordinary trail made by men or animals. The ground seemed worn smooth, not by human footsteps, but by time itself. Moss-covered stones peeked out from the soil, lined up in a way that looked too perfect to be natural. The boy realized he was walking on a hidden road, one buried deep under years of silence and shadow. Everywhere he looked, he noticed signs that others had been here long ago. On the sides of trees, faint carvings twisted like vines. Some were sharp and straight, others curved and flowing, but all gave off a faint glow, almost invisible unless he looked closely. The boy brushed his fingers across one, and for a brief moment, the mark pulsed with light under his skin. He gasped and pulled his hand back quickly, wiping it on his clothes as if the strange energy could be washed away. The animal paused, watching him carefully, then continued walking, as though it had expected his fear. The boy took slow steps behind it, his ears catching every sound of the forest. Yet strangely, there were no bird calls, no rustle of small creatures, no buzzing of insects. The only noises were the crunch of his boots on leaves and the soft sound of the animal's glowing paws against the ground. The silence was so deep it pressed against his ears, making even his own breathing feel too loud. He thought about turning back, about running to the safety of his home, but the path seemed alive, whispering to him, urging him forward. The deeper they went, the stranger it became. The trees grew taller and closer together, their branches twisting overhead like locked fingers, blocking out most of the sunlight. Shafts of golden light broke through in thin lines, making the air glow in narrow beams that looked like paths of their own. Dust and pollen floated in the light, drifting slowly as if time itself moved differently here. The boy rubbed his eyes, wondering if he was dreaming, but every step felt real beneath his feet. At one point, the path split into two directions. One side curved sharply downward into a darker part of the forest where no light reached. The other side sloped upward toward a ridge where the branches thinned. The boy looked at the animal nervously, waiting to see which way it would choose. The creature stood still for a moment, its glowing eyes staring into the shadows below. Then it turned toward the upward path. Relief filled the boy, though he didn't know why. He followed quickly, his hands brushing branches aside as he climbed. As he reached the ridge, he stopped and gasped. From above, he could see that the path was not random at all. The trees below curved around in shapes too neat to be natural, forming circles and spirals that looked almost like symbols carved into the very forest itself. The boy's mouth went dry. Who had made this? Why had no one else seen it? He turned to the animal, but it only continued forward, never explaining, never slowing. The boy hurried after it, his legs trembling from both fear and excitement. The ridge path narrowed, and at its end stood a stone archway, half buried in vines. It was taller than any house he had ever seen, carved with the same strange glowing symbols he had touched earlier. As he stepped closer, he felt the air shift around him, heavy and warm, like standing near a fire, though no flame burned nearby. His skin tingled, and the hair on his arms rose. He could almost hear something, a faint hum, like a song without words, coming from deep inside the archway. The animal stopped at the base of the arch and turned its head, staring at him. Its glowing fur shimmered brighter than before, lighting the stones around it. The boy took a shaky step forward, his heart pounding so loudly it echoed in his ears. He wanted to ask what this place was, but his throat felt dry, and his voice would not come. He lifted his hand and touched the arch. At once the carvings lit up, spreading light across the stones like fire racing through dry grass. The boy stumbled back, his eyes wide, but the animal didn't move. It stood calmly, waiting, as if this was what it wanted him to do all along. The glowing light spread across the arch until the whole structure pulsed with life. The hum grew louder, filling his chest and shaking the ground beneath his feet. Then, for the briefest moment, he heard something. Words, spoken in a voice that was not human. It was faint, broken, but clear enough to freeze him in place. "Welcome back." The boy's breath caught. His lips trembled as he looked around, but no one was there. The forest remained still, the silence deep, yet he knew he had heard it. His knees weakened, and he gripped the vines to keep from falling. The animal stepped forward, walking slowly under the arch. It paused on the other side, turned back, and looked at him. Its eyes glowed brighter, urging him to follow. Every part of the boy wanted to run, to escape this place, and never return. But something inside him pushed stronger. Curiosity, wonder, and the sense that this was meant for him alone pulled his feet forward. He swallowed hard, wiped the sweat from his face, and stepped through the arch after the glowing creature. The air beyond was heavier, stranger, but alive with secrets waiting to be revealed. The boy knew he had crossed into a hidden world, one buried under time and silence. What waited ahead was unknown, but one thing was certain: his life would never be the same again. The boy's steps were slow as he walked through the arch, his breath uneven and his eyes wide. The air on the other side was different, heavy yet strangely alive, as though it carried whispers too faint to understand. The forest behind him felt far away now, as if he had stepped out of one world and into another. The glowing animal moved ahead calmly, its light casting soft shadows on the ground, leading him deeper into this hidden place. The boy's gaze shifted from tree to stone, from soil to sky, trying to take in everything at once. What he saw made his heart pound harder. The ground was no longer just dirt and leaves. Large stones jutted up from the earth, shaped and carved, covered in moss, but clearly made by hands long ago. Some had collapsed into heaps, others leaned at strange angles, but many still stood tall, marked with glowing symbols that looked like the ones on the arch. The boy felt small walking among them, as though he had entered a city where giants once lived. At the center of the ruins stood a tall, broken tower. Vines wrapped around it like snakes, but the stones still held together, proud and strong despite the weight of years. The boy stopped and stared. His chest tightened with a mix of fear and awe. The animal walked straight toward the tower, then paused, waiting for him to follow. His legs trembled, but he forced himself to move. As he walked closer, he noticed strange carvings on the tower's base. They were not just symbols, but shapes of people. Figures with human bodies standing beside tall alien shapes with long arms and strange heads. They stood together as if allies, fighting something else, something dark and twisted. The boy traced one figure with his finger, and the stone lit up beneath his touch. His heart jumped. A rush of images flooded his mind. For a moment, he was no longer standing in the ruins. He saw battles under alien skies, fire raining down, and soldiers shouting in languages he didn't know. He saw humans, men and women with weapons, fighting shoulder to shoulder with creatures that looked like the ones carved on the stones. He saw huge beasts made of metal and fire marching across fields, and above them a burning sky filled with strange ships. The vision came and went in seconds, but it left him gasping, his knees weak. He stumbled back and pressed his hand against his chest. His heart hammered so hard he thought it might break free. Sweat ran down his forehead, and his mouth went dry. The boy whispered to himself, "What is this place?" His voice sounded small in the vast silence. The animal tilted its head, watching him with calm, glowing eyes. It made no sound, but he felt again that faint touch in his mind. Not words, but a push of feeling, urging him forward, telling him he was not in danger. He took a shaky breath and nodded, though he wasn't sure why. He stepped closer to the tower again, this time ready for whatever might come. Inside the ruins of the tower, the boy found more carvings. These showed scenes of peace, humans and aliens building together, sharing food, raising children. One carving showed a glowing animal, just like the one standing beside him, resting at the feet of both species. His stomach nodded as realization struck. This animal was not just a wild creature. It was part of the story, part of the bond between humans and aliens long ago. The boy reached out again, his hand trembling, and touched another carving. This time, the vision that came was softer. He saw a great hall with humans and aliens seated together. A huge table stretched between them, filled with strange glowing food. At the head of the hall sat a human man and an alien leader, shaking hands while the glowing animal lay calmly at their side. The feeling that swept over the boy was warm, hopeful, almost like a memory. He pulled his hand back quickly, shaking his head. His mind spun. Why was he seeing this? Why him? He had never heard stories like these before. His father had told him about wars, about dangerous aliens who wanted to conquer humans, but never about peace, never about friendship. His breath caught in his throat as he realized the truth. His people had forgotten something important, something powerful. The boy turned in circles, looking at the ruins, the carvings, the glowing light. He felt as though the place itself was alive, as though it had been waiting for him to come. His hands shook as he whispered, "Why me? Why show me this?" As if in answer, the tower gave a low hum. The stones around him glowed brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. The sound was deep, old, and full of power. Dust shook loose from the cracks, and the ground trembled beneath his feet. The boy stumbled, almost falling, but the animal pressed against his side gently, steadying him. The boy clung to its fur, his eyes wide with fear and wonder. The hum grew louder, echoing in his chest. Then, without warning, more visions came. He saw a giant gate closing, human and alien leaders standing before it, shouting words he could not hear. He saw the glowing animals scattering into the forests, vanishing into silence. He saw children, human and alien, weeping as the bond was broken. The vision ended with a flash of light, leaving the boy shaking and pale. His knees hit the ground, and he struggled to breathe. He looked at the animal, tears welling in his eyes. "I don't understand," he whispered. "What does this mean? What am I supposed to do?" The animal bent its head low, its glowing eyes reflecting the trembling boy's face. For a long moment, the silence stretched. Then, deep inside his mind, he felt the same message again. Not words, but feelings. A call, a promise, a warning. The boy wiped his eyes and stood slowly. He was still afraid, but the fear now mixed with something else, something stronger. Curiosity, responsibility, destiny. He looked around at the ruins one last time, then at the glowing animal who had led him here. He understood only one thing with certainty. This place had been waiting for him. And whatever truth it held, his life would never return to what it had been before. The boy stood inside the broken tower, his breathing still uneven from the visions that had struck him. His heart had not yet calmed when he suddenly heard a sound that did not belong to the ruins. It was faint at first, like dry leaves crunching under heavy boots. Then it grew louder, clearer, too steady to be an animal. The boy's chest tightened. Someone else was here. He froze, his small body pressed against the cold stone. The glowing animal raised its head, ears twitching its eyes glowing brighter. It did not look surprised, almost as if it had been expecting this moment. The boy wanted to hide, but the creature stayed calm, so he held his breath and waited. From the shadows beyond the tower, two tall figures stepped forward. They were unlike anything the boy had seen before. Their bodies were lean but powerful, covered in dark armor that seemed to grow out of their skin. Their faces were sharp, their eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Long weapons, strange and heavy, rested in their hands. The boy's heart pounded so hard he thought they could hear it. He pressed back against the stone, his knees trembling. These were aliens, real ones, not carvings, not visions. Living, breathing, dangerous. His father had always warned him that aliens were cruel, that they hated humans, that they killed without mercy. Now, standing before them, the boy felt the truth of those warnings in the chill of his bones. The first alien's gaze swept across the ruins, then landed on him. Its eyes narrowed, and it muttered something in a language the boy didn't know. The second alien raised its weapon, pointing it straight at the boy's chest. He gasped, his breath catching, and felt his legs nearly give out. But before the weapon could fire, the glowing animal moved. It stepped between the boy and the aliens, its body low, its fur shining brighter than ever. A low growl rumbled from its chest, deep and steady, like thunder waiting to strike. The boy clung to the creature's side, hiding behind it, his eyes wide with terror. Something unexpected happened. The aliens froze. They stared at the animal, their weapons still raised, but their faces suddenly tense. The one who had spoken dropped its weapon slowly, its sharp eyes widening in shock. Then, to the boy's disbelief, both aliens lowered their heads and bowed. The boy blinked in confusion, his mouth falling open. He had expected them to attack, to strike him down, but instead, they bowed to the animal standing protectively before him. His fear mixed with amazement. Why would such powerful beings bow? What was this animal to them? The aliens spoke again, their voices rough but softer now. Though the boy could not understand most of the words, a few were clear. One of them looked at the animal and whispered, "Guardian." The other added something that sounded like "chosen." The boy's heart skipped a beat. He looked up at the glowing creature, his eyes wide. Could it be true? This was no ordinary animal. It was something greater, something sacred. The boy's fear did not vanish, but it changed. He was no longer just afraid of dying. He was afraid of what this meant. The visions in the ruins, the glowing symbols, the forgotten stories, now the proof stood right before him. The glowing animal was part of it, maybe even the center of it. And somehow, it had chosen him. The first alien straightened and stepped closer, its eyes studying the boy with sharp intensity. It spoke in broken human words, the accent heavy, the voice deep. Child, human, with guardian. The alien paused, then added slowly, not enemy. The boy's mouth was dry. He could not find words. He only clutched the animal's glowing fur and tried to understand. These beings should have frightened him more than anything in the world, yet they were not looking at him with hate. They looked at him with something else, recognition. The second alien pointed at the ruins, then at the boy, its voice sharp but not angry. You, see? It asked. The boy nodded quickly, unsure what else to do. The alien muttered to the other in its own tongue, their voices tense, hurried, almost fearful. The animal let out a soft hum, its light pulsing faintly. The aliens grew quiet at once, their heads lowering again. The boy shivered. The power the animal held over them was clear, and it frightened him as much as it amazed him. He whispered to himself, "Why me? Why did it bring me here?" The alien seemed to sense his fear. The first one lowered its weapon completely and said in slow, broken words, "Guardian choose human boy. Long ago, promise." Its eyes narrowed, studying him as if searching for something. You, part of bond. The boy felt dizzy. His father's stories had spoken only of danger, of aliens as enemies. Yet here, in this hidden place, he was being told of a promise, a bond between species, something ancient and forgotten. His head spun with too many questions, but the only thing he could do was stand frozen, clutching the glowing animal like it was his only lifeline. The second alien glanced nervously toward the trees, its posture tense. It spoke quickly in its own language, pointing at the sky. The boy followed its gaze and saw shadows moving above the forest canopy. Strange shapes, faint and far away but growing closer. His chest tightened. More were coming. The aliens looked at the boy again. Their eyes carried both urgency and warning. "Danger," the first one said. "Others come, not friend." The boy's heart sank. He had stumbled into a world far bigger and far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. Yet in that moment, one thing was clear. He was no longer just a curious child following an animal. He was standing in the middle of something ancient, something sacred, something that others would kill to control or destroy. The glowing animal pressed against him gently, its fur warm, steadying his shaking body. Its glowing eyes looked into his, and though no words were spoken, he understood the message. This was only the beginning. The boy swallowed hard, his fear mixing with a strange, unstoppable pull of destiny. He looked at the aliens, then at the animal, and though he didn't speak, his heart whispered the truth. His life would never belong to himself alone again. The boy stood between the glowing animal and the two aliens, his small hands trembling as he tried to make sense of everything. His heart beat fast, so loud it almost drowned out the whispers of the forest. He wanted to ask questions, but his voice felt locked inside his throat. The aliens stared at him with eyes sharp and bright, and then one of them spoke slowly in broken human words. "Guardian, choose you." The boy blinked, confused. He pointed to himself with a shaky hand. "Me?" he whispered. The alien nodded. The words made no sense. He was just a farmer's son, not a warrior, not a leader. Why would this glowing animal, this guardian as they called it, choose him? The first alien raised a clawed hand and gestured at the glowing creature. "Long ago, humans and us, one bond. Promise made." The alien struggled with the words, but the boy understood the meaning. The carvings on the ruins, the visions in the tower, all of them had shown humans and aliens standing together. His father had never told him stories like this. Maybe his people had forgotten. Maybe they had chosen to forget. The boy's lips trembled. "What promise?" he asked, though he already felt the answer stirring inside him. The second alien spoke quickly in its own language, its voice low and urgent. The first one nodded, then turned back to the boy. "Guardian, choose human. Human, keep bond alive. You, the one." The boy shook his head quickly, fear rising in him. "No, not me. I'm just a child. I can't do anything." His voice cracked as he spoke, and he felt tears burning at the corners of his eyes. But the aliens did not move. They looked at him with strange respect, and at the glowing animal with fear. The guardian pressed its glowing body closer to him, warm and steady. The boy felt a strange calm seep into his chest, quieting his panic for a moment. He understood then that he was not chosen by mistake. The guardian had led him here for a reason. The aliens continued, their broken words carrying heavy weight. "Others come, not like us. They destroy bond, kill guardian, kill human." The boy's chest tightened. He thought of the shadows in the sky, the machines moving closer. The danger was real, and it was coming fast. His knees weakened, and he almost collapsed, but the guardian leaned against him, holding him steady. He whispered to himself, "Why me? Why now?" He thought of his father working in the fields, of his mother cooking at home. They had no idea where he was, no idea what he had found, and he was not sure if he could ever return to them the same as before. The first alien crouched low, lowering itself to the boy's level. Its eyes glowed faintly as it spoke slowly. "Because Guardian choose, Guardian never wrong. You, last hope." The words struck him like a hammer. Last hope? For what? For who? The boy's mind spun with the memories of the visions he had seen. Humans and aliens fighting together, building together, sharing peace. Then the bond broken, the gates closed, the guardians scattering. He remembered the sadness, the loss, the silence that followed. And now he stood in the ruins of that history, chosen by a creature that had lived through it. The second alien's voice shook as it added, "If bond not return, war forever. Human die, alien die." Its words were broken, but the meaning was clear. This was not just about him or the glowing animal. This was about both species, about the survival of all. The boy's fear turned into something else, a heavy responsibility pressing on his small shoulders. He looked at the guardian, its glowing eyes steady and kind, and he realized it believed in him. The ruins, the visions, the alien's words, they all pointed to him. He was part of this story now, whether he wanted to be or not. He clenched his fists, trying to gather courage. "What do I have to do?" he asked softly. His voice was small, but the question was real. The aliens exchanged a glance, then pointed at the ruins. There. Deeper. Secret. Device. Only human can open. You must. The boy swallowed hard. His throat felt dry, but he nodded. The thought of going deeper into the ruins frightened him, but something inside told him this was the path he had to take. The guardian nuzzled against his side, its warmth giving him strength. But then the ground shook. A deep rumble spread through the trees, and a loud mechanical hum filled the air. The aliens stiffened, their eyes flashing with alarm. The boy looked up and saw it. The shadows above had grown larger. Strange flying machines, sharp and black, hovered in the distance, moving closer. Their eyes glowed red, and their wings cut through the sky like blades. The first alien hissed. "Too late. They come." It raised its weapon and stood tall, ready to fight. The second alien did the same, its sharp gaze fixed on the sky. The boy's chest pounded with fear. He grabbed the guardian's fur, pressing close. "What will happen?" he whispered. The guardian growled low, its glowing fur flaring brighter, as if ready to protect him with everything it had. The boy's fear mixed with awe. He realized that whatever was coming, he could not run anymore. He had been chosen for this, and the ruins had awakened for him alone. The first alien looked at him one last time. Its voice was sharp but filled with respect. Remember, you are Bond. You are key. Do not fail. Then it turned to face the sky, weapon raised, as the machines descended through the trees. The boy's hands shook, but he stood taller than before. He no longer felt like just a farmer's son. He was part of something greater, something ancient, something dangerous. The Guardian's light surrounded him, steady and warm, as the forest filled with the sound of machines closing in. He knew then that everything had changed. The old stories his people had forgotten were alive again, and he was standing in the middle of them. His choice would decide what happened next, not just to him, but to all. The boy's heart pounded as he stepped deeper into the ruins, the glowing animal moving ahead of him like a guide. Every step made the ground creak, the old stones echoing in the quiet morning. Dust and small rocks tumbled from the broken walls, and the boy had to duck to avoid them. His hands trembled, but he kept moving. He could not stop now. He had been chosen, and the Guardian's eyes glowed brighter, urging him forward. He remembered the alien's words. The device, hidden deep in the ruins, was the key. Only he could reach it. Only he could activate it. The thought made him feel small and heavy at the same time. How could a human child do something so important? But the warmth of the Guardian against his side reminded him that he was not alone. The deeper he went, the darker it became. Shadows moved strangely along the walls, and the faint glow from the animal barely lit the path. He could hear the wind whistling through broken windows and the sound of small creatures scurrying in the corners. Every noise made him jump, but he forced himself to stay calm. Every step mattered. Then he saw it, a large stone doorway covered in carvings. The symbols glowed faintly under the Guardian's light. The boy stepped closer, running his fingers over the cold stone. The carvings told a story of humans and aliens working together long ago, of battles fought and promises made. The boy's eyes widened. He felt a strange connection to the past, as if the walls themselves were alive and welcoming him. He noticed a small panel near the doorway, shaped like a handprint. His pulse quickened. Could this be the device? He pressed his hand against it, and the stones vibrated under his fingers. The glow from the Guardian flared, bright enough to cast shadows on the walls. He held his breath, waiting. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling, and small cracks appeared in the walls. The boy stumbled, but did not let go of the panel. The Guardian growled, standing protectively in front of him, its body glowing even brighter. The vibrations felt like a warning. Something was coming. Something big. Then the panel began to move. The stone slid open slowly, revealing a hidden chamber. Inside, the boy saw the device, a small, glowing orb hovering in the air. It pulsed with light, almost like a heartbeat. The boy felt drawn to it. He reached out, and the moment his fingers touched the orb, a rush of energy surged through him. His vision blurred, and colors danced before his eyes. The orb's light spread across the chamber, and the carvings on the walls lit up one by one. They showed more of the history, humans and aliens sharing knowledge, defending each other, and creating powerful bonds. The boy realized that this device was not just a tool, it was a memory, a record, and a weapon all in one. Its power was immense, but it also demanded responsibility. The Guardian nudged him gently, as if reminding him that he was ready. The boy took a deep breath and focused. He could feel the energy of the orb connecting with him, linking him to the past and to the aliens outside. It was as if the device recognized him, accepted him, and trusted him to carry on the ancient bond. But the chamber was not safe for long. The sound of the flying machines grew louder, echoing even inside the ruins. The boy's stomach twisted with fear. He knew they could reach him any moment. He glanced at the Guardian, who growled low and bared its teeth. Together, they could face danger, but only if he acted quickly. The boy raised his hands and touched the orb fully. A wave of energy expanded from it, spreading through the ruins. The ground trembled, and the walls glowed with ancient light. The symbols on the doorway shined, revealing pathways he had not noticed before. The device seemed to respond to his will, creating a protective barrier around him and the Guardian. Outside, the aliens watched in awe as a beam of light shot from the ruins into the sky. The flying machines faltered, their red eyes blinking in confusion. The boy felt a surge of hope. Maybe the device could help not just him, but everyone, the humans, the aliens, and the Guardian. Maybe this was the moment the bond could be restored. He could feel his own strength growing, not like before. It was different, powerful, but not frightening. The orb had connected with him, teaching him, guiding him, and sharing its energy. He could sense the history of the Guardians, their fights, their sacrifices, and their loyalty. He understood now that he was part of something greater than himself. The machines tried to enter the ruins, their wings cutting the sky, but the light from the orb formed a barrier. Sparks flew where they tried to break through, and one of the aliens shouted in surprise and relief. The boy smiled faintly, realizing that he was not powerless. For the first time, he felt that he had a chance to protect not just himself, but the ancient bond he had been chosen to uphold. The Guardian pressed closer to him, its glow steady and warm. He could feel its heartbeat, in rhythm with the orb, and a strange calm washed over him. The boy took another deep breath and looked at the pathways the light had revealed. He knew that what lay ahead would be dangerous, full of unknown enemies and challenges. But he also knew he could face them. He had found the device. He had connected with the Guardian. And now, he held the first key to restoring the ancient promise between humans and aliens. The boy clenched his fists, feeling determination rise in him. No matter what came next, he would not fail. He would protect the Guardian, he would protect the bond, and he would face the enemies coming through the sky. The chamber pulsed with light, the ruins around him glowing with a renewed energy. The boy looked back at the Guardian, and its eyes met his. He nodded slightly. And it responded with a soft hum, almost like a promise. Together, they were ready to face whatever awaited them outside. The boy understood now. The journey was far from over, but he had taken the first step. He had embraced his role, and nothing would stop him from protecting the bond that had chosen him. The flying machines hovered closer, but the boy's fear had been replaced with resolve. He stepped forward, the orb's light guiding his way, the Guardian at his side, ready for whatever came next. The ruins were alive, the ancient power awakened, and the boy, small but determined, was ready to carry the promise forward into a dangerous world. The boy ran through the ruins, the glowing Guardian at his side, as the flying machines hovered closer, their engines roaring and red lights flashing. Dust and stones tumbled from the broken walls as he dodged debris, his heart pounding like a drum. Every step mattered, every second counted. The orb in his hands pulsed like it had a life of its own, responding to his determination. Its light formed a protective shield around him, and the Guardian, flickering in rhythm with his racing heartbeat. He could hear the machines trying to break through, their wings scraping against the ruins and metal structures. The boy's fear surged, but it was tempered by a strange calm that filled him from the moment he touched the orb. He could feel its energy flowing through him, connecting him to the ancient Guardians and to the aliens outside. He was no longer just a human child. He was part of something greater, something powerful. The Guardian growled, low and warning, as one of the machines swooped closer, trying to break the shield. Sparks flew where its claws touched the light barrier, but the orb responded instantly. A wave of energy surged outward, pushing the machine back with a force that sent it spinning into the air. The boy's eyes widened in awe. He had not realized he could control the orb like this. His courage grew with every moment. Ahead, the ruins opened into a wide chamber, the walls glowing with ancient symbols. The carvings pulsed with light as if alive, and they seemed to guide him toward a staircase leading up. The boy realized that he had to reach the top of the chamber. The orb's energy intensified, lighting the path and forming a bridge over gaps and broken stones. Every step was dangerous, but he trusted the Guardian and the orb to protect him. As he climbed, he heard whispers in the wind, voices from the past. They told stories of humans and aliens who had worked together, who had fought together, and who had protected the Guardians. The boy felt a connection to them, as if their courage was flowing into him, strengthening his resolve. He realized that he was not just fighting for himself or the Guardian. He was fighting to honor all those who had come before. The flying machines circled above, their shadows falling over the ruins. The boy could see their eyes glowing red, their sensors searching for him. He knew they were fast, stronger than him in every way, but he also knew that the orb and the Guardian gave him a chance. He had to use the energy wisely. He clenched his fists around the orb, and the light flared brighter, forming a dome that protected the ruins from attack. Sparks flew, and the machines faltered, their engines straining against the energy barrier. He reached the top of the chamber, the staircase ending at a platform overlooking the ruins. The Guardian stood beside him, its body glowing even brighter. The boy took a deep breath, feeling the power of the orb coursing through him. He raised it high, and a beam of light shot into the sky, brighter than the sun. The machine screamed in alarm, unable to get close, their red lights blinking frantically. The energy from the orb spread across the ruins, touching every wall, every broken stone, and even the sky above. The ancient carvings shone with a brilliant light, revealing hidden passages and pathways he had not seen before. The boy realized that the ruins themselves were alive with energy, responding to the orb and his presence. He was no longer alone. The Guardian, the ruins, and the orb were together, forming a force that no enemy could easily overcome. Suddenly, one of the machines broke through the barrier, its claws reaching for him. The boy's heart leapt, but he did not panic. He focused on the orb, letting its energy flow through him. The machine froze in midair, caught in a web of light. Sparks flew from its body as the energy tightened around it, and with a final pulse, it was thrown back, crashing into the ruins below. The boy smiled faintly, realizing that he could control the energy, protect himself, and defend the Guardian. The other machines hesitated, their engines trembling as the light from the orb spread further. The boy could sense their fear. They were powerful, yes, but they had never faced something like this before. The energy was alive, connected to him, responding to his courage and determination. The Guardian growled proudly, nudging him forward. They had to move to reach the final chamber where the device's full power could be unlocked. The boy ran again, the orb lighting his path, the Guardian by his side. He felt the energy flowing through the ruins, forming bridges over broken floors, pushing debris aside, and even creating barriers where the machines tried to attack. The boy's confidence grew. He was not just a child anymore. He was a protector, a fighter, a guardian in his own right. Finally, he reached the inner chamber, where the air shimmered with energy. The orb pulsed in response, floating in front of him like it was alive. Symbols on the walls glowed brighter than ever, forming patterns that seemed to speak directly to him. The boy reached out, and the orb responded, its light expanding to fill the chamber. A deep hum resonated, vibrating through the ruins and into the sky. The flying machines circled above, but the orb's energy now created a dome that completely protected the chamber. The boy could feel their confusion and fear. They did not understand the power he now commanded. He felt a connection to the guardians of the past, to the aliens who had fought and protected, and to the Guardian at his side. He knew he had the strength to face anything. With a final surge, the orb released a wave of light that expanded beyond the ruins, touching the sky, the earth, and even the distant flying machines. The red lights blinked out one by one as the energy disarmed and drove them away. The boy breathed heavily, feeling exhausted but triumphant. He had faced the impossible, protected the Guardian, and unlocked the first true power of the device. The Guardian nuzzled him, glowing softly, and the boy smiled. He knew the journey was not over, but he had proven himself. He had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, and emerged stronger. The ruins were alive, the device was activated, and the bond between humans, aliens, and Guardians had been renewed. He looked around the chamber, feeling a sense of calm and pride. The light from the orb bathed the ruins in a golden glow, revealing hidden pathways, symbols, and secrets. The boy realized that this was only the beginning, that more challenges would come, but now he had the power, courage, and wisdom to face them. Together, the boy and the Guardian stepped forward, ready to continue the adventure. The orb's light guided their path, and the ruins seemed to whisper encouragement. The flying machines were gone, but the boy knew they might return. Yet he was ready. He was no longer just a human child. He was a part of something ancient, powerful, and unbreakable. The adventure had only begun, and he was ready to face the future with courage, hope, and determination.